What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 100%s I gave up on. A video I make every once in a while to remind everybody that I am in fact a human being and not an elaborate AI. In particular, relatively recently, a game just thoroughly demolished me, which kind of reminded me I need to update this again, adding a few more to the list that have been games I've simply had to put to the side. Because something that comes up a little bit, I think, with this channel is that there is a little bit of survivorship bias going on in the sense that you guys see the stuff that I complete most of the time, and not really the things that I make a decision not to pursue because I know I'm either just not going to be able to do it, not enjoy doing it, a variety of other reasons really. Simply put, most of the videos you guys wind up seeing are the success stories and not the failures. And given that I've been playing games my entire life, and I've been doing this for quite a while as well, I know for the most part what I'm capable of and what is just not going to be worth my time, either because I'm, again, not going to enjoy it, or I'm just straight up not going to be able to do it. But speaking of things I simply cannot do, it's probably best then we start with Ninja Gaiden 4. The reason I'm making this particular update to this style of video: Ninja Gaiden 4 thoroughly humbled me this year, actually. I have not been so devastated by a game in quite some time, which is a slightly dramatic way of saying that I just could not do the Master Ninja difficulty for this one. It is beyond me. It's no secret that much of what I play are like RPGs, things like that, and while some of them can be difficult, sure, most of them don't really rely on pure reflexes and skill on top of being good at whatever the underlying thing is. And while I wanted to play Ninja Gaiden 4, and I did have a good time with it, as I think the combat is a lot of fun, it became apparent very quickly I was not going to be able to finish this one as a 100%. Which I would say is a combination of, again, on that max difficulty, simply not being fast enough for it. Like, I just could not react to things in time, even when I knew what I should be doing. I just couldn't actually pull it off. And I also don't think I'm just good enough at the combat system at play here to really shoot for the moon in terms of Master Ninja difficulty. Now, thanks to the upgrades and stuff, I feel like if I put enough time in, I could probably get through hard. But honestly, I think you could give me a couple 100 hours and that Master Ninja difficulty is just never going to happen. Combine that with a lot of other things that were releasing around the same time, and it was pretty obvious that I was just going to have to let this one go. As you likely remember, I did put out a review for it, but it was just a regular review. As if I want to cover something, I'm not going to let something as arbitrary as not being able to complete all of it in terms of like the achievements and stuff prevent me from just dropping a normal review. Either way though, Ninja Gaiden 4, like I said, humbled me quite a bit. But we're not done yet because there are a few other games I wanted to bring up. Next up being Cyberknights Flashpoint. Now this is a fun one because this game is very much up my alley. I also think it's really cool, and I think you should check it out. It's a little TRPG title, but the problem is somewhat unique, and it's the main reason I wanted to include this one. It's just getting updated way too often. This game is developed and published by the Treese brothers, who have a reputation for just an incredible pace of updates, which remains the point here. So to give you an idea of that, this game officially released out of early access on June 2nd. So about 5 months ago. They have put out 50 updates to this game since then. And we're not talking just small stuff. I mean, some of it's small, sure, but other parts of it are like large content additions. And so the problem with dropping like a 100% review for this is that it's going to be outdated in a month, which means I will have spent a lot of time on doing a review for a game that's not going to be relevant in very short order, which is not typically how I like to structure my time. And so I just made a video on this one kind of, showing people what it was about and what the main points were and, kind of let it ride on that. In the event they ever stop updating this game, I will be more inclined to take a more permanent look at it, but I wanted to include this one again just because of the novelty of not being able to do all of it because it's being updated so very often, which I think is probably about the best situation you could ask for in that sense. Keeping it moving though, for number 3, switching gears a little bit to some stuff that released last year, we have Ravenswatch. So Ravenswatch is an ARPG roguelike title where you take a bunch of like heroes of folk tales and legends and fight your way through some hordes, that kind of thing. Overall, pretty fun game. I did make a checkout video for it, but there's a good chance you probably don't remember that video or realize I've even covered this. But I do like a good ARPG. If you've been hanging around a while, you'll know. And if so, it's probably no surprise that I would have checked this game out, as it had a fairly successful launch. And while I enjoy this game a lot, this third title is simply a case of I don't want to do this. Which was mainly down to the roguelike nature of it and the time at which I was playing it. This is just one of those cases where I realized the work involved of just like doing everything and playing all the different heroes, getting all the upgrades, that kind of thing. It just sounded not fun to me at the time. Like the runs aren't different enough because of the roguelike nature of it to really warrant that amount of time investment in a way that isn't going to just kind of be a bit much. So one thing about these games I always mention is that I like to play them to kind of chill. Most of this style of game are fairly like, you can turn your brain off a little bit once you get in that state. And I find that a little relaxing between all the RPGs, which require, all of my focus. So it was a mix of things. I would say one of the biggest simply being that I realized 100% on this would be a substantial time commitment to something that I prefer to play to relax, and I just didn't want to bring that level of energy to it, and so I chose not to. Now, for our fourth entry, I wanted to bring up a game that I would actually like to make time for at some point, but I had to just shelve it at the time, and that is actually For the King 2. Now, full disclosure here, if you look up the video I made for this one, it was a sponsored video, just kind of showing the game off. All the way back in 2023, I believe. I don't really take sponsorships hardly at all anymore, so that might catch people a little by surprise if you went and looked for it, which is why I wanted to mention it. I mentioned that I would like to revisit that game. This is simply because, if you're unaware of everything that was going on at the end of 2023 when this game released, Baldur's Gate 3 had released not long before it, and the 100% on Baldur's Gate 3 took hundreds of hours. And in order to, actually make that happen on top of trying to play other stuff at the same time, some things had to get cut. I just did not have the bandwidth for them, and For the King 2 was one of the games in that time period that I was just like, this is the thing that is clearly not going to be worth my time in comparison to the other stuff I would like to cover. And so I set it to the side. I just kind of never got back to it is really what happened. Though that said, they've actually been putting out a whole bunch of DLC for it and stuff since. I think it's getting an expansion as early as a little bit later this year. And so in that sense, I think this game might wind up being another title where once they are fully done with all the updates, I might swing back around to it and check it out because it does some fun roguelike tabletop style mechanics that I think were really fun. So maybe one of these days I'll swing back around to it, but it just had to go on the chopping block at the time because sometimes I got to make some decisions like that. And then for our last entry, we have another game that released last year, which is none other than Frostpunk 2. So Frostpunk 2 is a pretty big, I would say, expansion / sidestep from the original game, as this one sees you doing a whole bunch of society stuff, having to deal with different political factions within your own city, having to deal with a council that has to set up and vote on and pass various laws, all while you're trying to actually survive, and it as a whole kind of describes itself as a city survival game. And on one hand, it's a pretty unique concept, which is of note to me. I like anything that I haven't seen before, generally. And as a concept, I think Frostpunk 2 is incredibly cool. The problem that I found in practice, though, is that a lot of its mechanics remind me a lot of 4X strategy games, and if you watch the channel much, not a huge fan of those specifically. I don't really enjoy that level of micromanagement, and in order to be good at something like this, you have to be able to do all of that micromanagement. And for as much as I like the concept and everything, the idea of playing through this repeatedly to get some of the achievements in the type of game I just don't like that much to begin with made it pretty obvious to me at least that I was going to drive myself crazy playing what is inherently a bit of a depressing experience. Trying to chase a 100% on this one made me ultimately decide that for my own sanity, I was just not going to attempt it. Truth be told, I don't know if I could do this one or not. Again, I'm not really into 4X strategy games. You also have to play through it, I believe, a bunch of different times to get some of these achievements. So it seemed like the kind of thing that would test my sanity a bit too much. And so I just made my checkout video and moved on with my life, to be honest. I doubt I will ever get back to this one, honestly. Just the core premise, again, very depressing. Some of the core gameplay is the exact type of stuff I like to avoid, that kind of thing. And so I was happy to let Frostpunk 2 leave me out in the cold. Which, speaking of, is what I'm doing to you, the listener, because this video is in fact over. As there have been 5 100% I gave up on for one reason or another. Because as was hopefully made apparent over the course of this video, if I can't do something, or I think I can't do something, or it doesn't seem like it would be enjoyable in relation to getting 100% on it, I'm just going to make a video, drop it, and move on. I'll just make a regular video, be that a checkout or a proper review, just a non-100% one, and then I move on with my life. Having done my own mental calculation based on whether or not I would enjoy it well enough to actually put in the effort to do it to begin with, versus, of course, how much actual fan request type stuff is in there as well. So there's a few different factors, but long story short, sometimes you gotta know when to quit. Either way though, hopefully you enjoyed all that. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Let me know about some 100% you either struggled through or decided were a little bit too much. I know there are some crazy ones out there, but I'd be interested in hearing what you guys have to say about it. Which naturally means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.